Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. This gear's been field tested by some of the best, and they know what it can do, what it can't do. You're going to get reviews, and you're going to have a selection that is bar none right at the top of the list. Having said that, once you get your gift card, all you have to do is go to GoHunt.com and go to the first page and click on shop and go have some fun. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin, and I am also the executive producer of Whitetail Rendezvous. And we're going to head out to Indiana with Uncle Bucky Outdoor Adventures. Now, that's a mouthful, but Uncle Bucky's got he's got some stories to spin tonight, but we're going to start right off with, why he's on the Hunt Channel and what's he bringing to the Hunt Channel.
Well, I started 3 years ago. Actually, videotaping my hunt started back in 2008. I talked a little bit I'll tell you about what got me into filming was the fact that I've got multiple sclerosis. It got real bad in 2007. I decided in 2008, I want to film my hunts just as a way to document my passion for the outdoors. I have this great fire for the outdoors. In case something happened to me, my future grandchildren, my kids at that time were maybe 9 and 12. So I didn't have any grandkids yet. Little did I know that I'd start putting these videos that were really hacked. They were edited horribly on Windows Movie Maker. I didn't know what I was doing. I hacked them up, put a little music on them, threw them on YouTube. And before you know it, I got a pretty good following. And people liked them, I think, because Jim Held from Field Logic was one of my first supporters, and he told me, "You are genuine." He said, "You're just real. You show yourself missing. You show yourself, laughing. You show yourself down because, something didn't go right." I show everything. And then I was approached 3 years ago by Hunt Channel, and they said, "We really like your show. We'd like you to come on board." So I decided for quarter 2 and quarter 4 of every year, I would air. Like this quarter coming up, I've got a ton of turkey hunting. I've got rabbit hunting. I've got trapping, which is my main passion in the outdoors. I've got bow fishing. I've got a wide variety. So I think what Hunt Channel saw is that I wasn't just a deer hunter and a turkey hunter like the traditional TV shows. I had all this wide variety. Plus, I make cooking videos and trapping videos, and my alter ego is Bubba, the Redneck Inventor, and he has some great inventions that can help the hunters. And it's, let's just say that the DNR and Bubba are good friends. But all these videos I make, Hunt Channel came to me and they said, and they helped me because at first it was a pretty rocky road, Bruce. I didn't know what I was doing putting a 26-minute, a 30-minute show on. Well, they were really good with me and helped me. And just recently, I had an incredible show that was entitled, let me think exactly how I titled it. What I did is the intro came in and say, "We're going to teach you today how to trap, skin, butcher, and cook beaver." And I'm like, "Say what?" That's right, beaver. And I went through the whole show and showed how you trap a beaver, how you skin it, how you butcher it, and how you cook it. Because I don't know if you know this, Bruce, beaver is absolutely phenomenal. And it was the highest rated show I've had in 2 years. I had people tuning in that never even trapped, and they thought, I need to get out there and trap because it's a way. What trapping will do for you, Bruce, trapping will make everyone a better hunter. Because when we rifle hunt, we have to be within 200-300 yards of the animal to shoot it. When we bow hunt, we have to be 50 yards or under. But when you trap, you have to make that animal step on a 2x2 pan. You have to be exact with everything. So what it does, it really hones your senses to find the sign and where the animals are traveling and the fresh sign. And I don't know. I mean, people ask me, I've been very fortunate bow hunting. Since 2007, I've shot 7 Pope and Young bucks here in Indiana. And I think it's because of the trapping at such a young age, and I think it really builds that sense of finding the sign. When you trap, you can either go out with 1,000 traps and put one everywhere, or like me, take out 20 traps and put them in the areas they're going to catch animals and be very successful at it. And I think that's what I attribute my success in hunting to.
I like how you said that because a lot of us, and I can be guilty, I'll say, well, I need to stand over here. I need to stand over there. I'm going to put a ground blind over here. All of a sudden, my woods is cluttered. I call it cluttered. I'm cluttering up. And then I've had some pretty smart hunters. They go, what are you doing, son? I go, I'm putting them where the deer are. Yeah, but the deer aren't where your stands are they? No. And so, I have to get learned all over again because things change. And on your 140, 180, doesn't matter. Things change from year to year. You don't think they do, but they actually do. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the last couple of years is that your little 40 or 180 or whatever you're hunting changes enough that the deer activity is going to change. Ergo, that stand that's killed 5 bucks in a row, you can sit in there the whole season. You're not going to see anything. During a rut, you may. Okay, you got to give that wild card. During a rut, you may. But the rest of the time ain't going to happen. So go and take that stand, figure it out, and put it in a different place. Your thoughts on that?
It's funny you said that because this year that happened. I had a property that I mainly hunt. I had success killing bucks in the one area. This year, guess what? No, I had to totally relearn the property all over again because of some construction that's real close to our town. And you're right. I think, and I was able to adapt quickly and actually ended up shooting a buck that just barely missed the Pope and Young. It was a 4.5-year-old 8-pointer that never grew a very big rack, but he just barely missed it. But I think it was because of that, what you just said. Don't get complacent. And in trapping, it's the same way. You've got to look for that fresh sign. You got to set up on it. It's the same way with hunting. And I think that really the trapping background I have is really why I've been successful in the hunting that I've been very successful turkey hunting, very successful deer hunting. I think it's because of that. I think it really is that base that my father got me interested in trapping back in 1973.
Let's stay right on trapping because I know scent control is huge and you're going to use funnels or channels. I don't know what you call it, but I know you use them to kind of move the critter where you want it. Hinge cutting, we refer to that in the whitetail world. But then you've got bait, and then you've got the actual trap that has to be, scentless. So let's go through those and let's relate to how that affects the deer hunter.
Well, like I said before, when you're deer hunting, you can be 50, 40, 30 yards away. Your deer has to be, you still have some leeway. In trapping, you don't. However, much like deer hunting, we use scents let's just take coyote hunting or coyote trapping. Excuse me, let me put my mug down. My wife said she doesn't believe I'm not Italian because I have to use my hands to talk. Anyway, so in trapping, we're trapping coyotes. Coyotes might be running across the middle of a field, but you want to play just like in whitetail hunting, you play the wind, but it's the opposite in trapping. We want that coyote to come across the wind of our trap because we're going to put a lure either on a rock, a stick, or we put a little hole in the ground. And we want that coyote, when he walks by, to smell that and then come investigate. And that's where the scentless part of your trap comes in, because coyotes have such a great nose, just like a deer. You have to fool that. So they come in, work your set, and hopefully if you've done everything right, your homework right, and not left any human scent anywhere, they'll step on the trap and you'll be successful. Just like whitetail hunting, I'm not a huge guy on scents. I do use, I'll tell you, my scent control system. I've been asked many times at these speaking engagements I do what I attribute my success in whitetail hunting to, but I call to the animals a lot, or I'll use scent sometimes, but most of the time I call. So it's the same thing as using a lure in coyote hunt. I see a deer like this year. That deer I killed, it was 175 yards away. I had my decoy out there, which your decoy could be the same thing as your call lure for your coyotes. I call to him. I watch his reaction. He comes in from 175 yards and gave me a 16-yard shot because he was preoccupied with, I think what he did is he saw a deer and he heard a deer. And we fooled three, they have three main senses: seeing, hearing, and smelling. And I fooled two of those. He came in and he was trying to get the wind of the deer when I shot him. And that's one of the things I did a clinic not long ago about decoying, because I'm very big on decoying. A lot of guys I see set up the decoys totally wrong. You have to have that wind, has to be in your face, because that deer is going to come between you and the decoy to try and get this, the whiff of it, to make sure before he comes in, to make sure who it is, because most deer know every deer in their area. That's why that dominant buck urine that I use a lot of, it works, I think, because those don't roam as much as bucks do. And a buck's, you get a dominant buck in your area, Bruce, and he comes in and he smells a new buck, he's going to be infuriated. Then he comes in and he sees a decoy that he's never seen before, and he hears them calling, and it kind of brings him in. I kind of equate that to trapping too. It's the same way when I look at a coyote set, I look at the woods or the field, and I say, if I was, and I'll tell you this, coyotes are lazy. If I was a lazy coyote, how could I spend the least energy to get my food? And then I kind of imagine where the coyote would go, but you can't always get it exact. That's why that scent, we put I use red fox urine, and I'll give my secret away. I mainly use, they call it scat, coyote poop. What I do is when I'm trapping big areas, I'll take little sandwich bags with me, and when I'm on one farm, I find some fresh coyote scat. I'll pick it up with the baggie, and I'll mark where it came from. Then I'll use it on another farm 30 or 40 miles away. And it attracts them because coyotes are not always hungry. They're not always sexually active, but they are always territorial. And that's kind of how I equate. I think at a young age, my father told me, you got to act like the animal. You got to think like the animal. You can't think like a human. You got to think like the muskrat you're trapping. You got to think like the beaver you're trapping or the raccoon. And that's kind of how I equate my trapping, how I kind of bring that over into the whitetail world, is that I'm really doing the same thing, only I'm using a lure and a trap to get the animal. And over here, I'm using a decoy and a call to bring the buck in. And, the trap catches the coyote and my bow or my gun gets the buck. So that's kind of how I kind of equate how I use trapping into the whitetail world.
Yeah, and folks, when you think about that, it's all intertwined because we're dealing with critters, we're dealing with wild animals, and they have similar habits, not all the same, but they're very similar. So if you're a successful trapper, then you could be or should be a successful whitetail hunter, turkey hunter, hog hunter. It doesn't matter. I remember the first time I headed out west from Wisconsin, archery hunting, going to a place I never had been. I read a couple of books, talked to a couple of guys, so forth and so on. And I just took about 5 things that I said, okay, I'm just going to do this. And so I found One was the north-facing slope. Two, wet, musty areas. Three, sign. And four, smell. Guess what? The fifth one was I got close. I didn't get them, but I was right there. And if I had been smarter, I probably would have shot him. Or maybe I wouldn't. Who cares? But I got that close only because I did the 5 things and I figured it out. Only because people had helped me and said, "This is what you need to do. Just go do it and find all these conditions." So it's no difference in your whitetail woods at all. You find the right conditions, and the buck will be there, or the doe will be there.
Yeah. It's funny you said that, you talk about listening to people. I was an athlete growing up. I wrestled, played baseball. I played rugby in college. Somebody asked me one time, and I'm not tooting my horn because I don't think I was that good of an athlete. One of my friends said, you're so good at everything you do. Even when I got into golfing, I became a scratch golfer in 2 years. And I said, it's because I listen. I take direction very well. I had a mother that was an amazing woman that could give you constructive criticism, but still make you feel loved. So I learned at a young age to turn off my sensitivity and listen to these people that were older than me that had all this knowledge. So when I started trapping, my father was a trapper, and I was very fortunate that I got introduced to a guy named Don Oaklinger, who passed away a couple years ago, but he was in a town just a little bit north of me, and he kind of mentored me in trapping. I listened to him. Women are the same way. Women, I find, they adapt to hunting so much better. I think it's because they don't have all that testosterone like us men. And, a lot of men like, I get men all the time tell me, that's not going to work. It's like, okay, why'd you ask me? But women they absorb all that and they listen, and they say, I think that's why we have such an explosion of women in the sport. They're finding out that, wow, this is amazing. We're part of the circle of life. They're out there doing it and they're very successful, I think, because they're like you and I, they listen better than, and I'm not trying to knock men. It's just that I can't tell you how many seminars, and I'll tell you my trick, I think, too, that I use for whitetail hunting to make myself successful here in a minute. But I'll tell this to guys and they tell, that's hogwash. I'm like, well, okay, I started whitetail hunting in 2003. And I really started getting serious about it in 2005. I've shot 98 deer. I've shot 73 deer with a bow since then. I've shot hogs and coyotes with my bow, with my guns, and turkeys. So it's like, okay, well, why'd you ask me if you didn't? But that's men sometimes. I mean, it's part of our nature, I think, that we want to be the guys to bring it. But I think you bring a valid point up for people that are listening. Man, when I first started whitetail hunting, I didn't know nothing. I got a deer my first year, Bruce. I have no idea how. I did everything wrong. I think I found the dumbest deer in Indiana. He committed suicide. But I said, my mom always taught me, if you're going to do something, do it right. So I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I really enjoy whitetail hunting. So I went out and I talked to all the most successful people that I could find. And what I did is I absorbed all that knowledge, wrote it down on Notepad, and I soon found out that we talk about the 5 things you did. There are 4 to 5 common denominators that all successful hunters do. And so I made that my base of my whitetail hunting, and then I kind of added my own flair. But I was, I listened, and I think it's trying to do stuff outside the box. Deer are no different than us. They learn habits of people, and you start out early bow season, and you can go out and hunt 10, early morning till 10 o'clock, and you see deer. But then pretty soon you stop seeing them because they've got you figured out that you're in the woods from sunrise till 10 o'clock. And then I know a guy locally here that he doesn't, during the rut, he doesn't go out till 10. He hunts 10 to 2 and he kills bucks because he thinks the deer get up and roam around because they're like, okay, the people have trained them, to get on that clock that, okay, the people are around then and the danger's around. But that's just my take. I've always been an outside the box thinker, trying new things, trying different things, but I've always listened to people. And I think that's a good, valuable tip for people is, hey, you got a guy that's successful. You talk about trapping. Everybody knows Tom Miranda, the guy that's shot all these different rams and shot all these different turkeys. You know what he started out doing? Trapping. Tom Miranda was a big time trapper. And I talked to him at a couple of the ATAs, and he and I both agreed that he thinks his success is because of that trapping. It gave him this understanding of the outdoors and of sign and where to hunt, you learn how to trap, you're going to know where to hunt at also.
So what's the secret? What's the whitetail secret you're going to share?
Okay. Okay. You got to stop me sometimes, Bruce. I get on a roll and
That's all right. That's all right. We're listening.
All right. So what I do, you hear all these scent killers, eliminates this. I wash all my clothes and scent out soap, and I'm very careful with all my stuff not to have scent on it. I take a shower, but you know what? We're never going to be able to eliminate all of our human odor. And if you know how odor floats around in the air, it's molecules. And all these molecules float around. And when we smell something, our gland is much smaller than a deer. So these molecules land on there, and we can smell bacon. We can smell our wife's perfume. We can smell a fresh beer. We can smell our buddy that ate burritos for lunch, but we can't smell all four of those smells at one time, where a deer can. So my idea is if you eliminate all your human odor, get it down to as little, as few molecules as possible, you go out, and I use Harmon deer scents. I use a scent that they use now called Herd Blend, and it's just a mixture of different whitetail, urines, and I spray it on my boots. And what that does, what I believe, is that when you walk out, you leave this fresh scent of a deer. Now you get up in your tree stand, or you get in your ground blind, or wherever you're going to hunt, and you spray a little bit of this around also. And I also use a product there. It's called interdigital, which actually has some of the interdigital gland from a deer. That's how they smell each other. They have a little gland in between their hooves that secretes a little waxy substance. That's how the fawns can find where their mother ran off to. That's how they find each other, through their own smell. Well, anyway, so you get to your stand, you spray some out. So you get a deer coming downwind. You're never going to be able to play the wind 100%. You get a deer coming downwind, and they smell a few molecules of a human, and it alerts them. But then they smell a stronger, odor or more molecules of a deer. And I truly believe that in their mind, because, they're a flight animal. If they're scared, they run. I truly believe that in their mind, they recognize that there's been a human in the area, but a deer has been there afterwards, so it must be safe to go through, and they continue to come through. And I'll be honest, of the seven open young bucks I've shot with my bow, one of them was a 181-inch buck. All but one came directly downwind to my call. And I attribute that to that smell. I think they smell a human, and they're alerted because they smell humans everywhere they go. But they smell this stronger odor or more molecules of a deer, and it calms them down. It's kind of like years after I started doing it, a couple of years, they came out with that cover scent called Evercalm. Fitzgerald's makes one called Deer Dander. And then I used the Harmon scent because I just liked it. It was more readily available than the other ones. It's hard to find them, and it was a little more economical. And I just had great luck with it. And the reason I always use Harmon is that scent is 100% whitetail. They don't cut it, color it, water it down. When you get that bottle, Bruce, it smells like a deer. And I've had other ones that you get, and they smell like ammonia, or that they just don't smell right. And I'm the kind of guy, when I get something I like and it works for me, I stick with it until somebody proves me something's better. But that's my secret. Scent out as best you can, but use a deer-based cover scent. And I think it just gives this calming effect to the deer. And I've got hours of video footage of deer, does, little bucks, bigger bucks coming from my downwind side. And I think that's what I attribute it to, is the fact that I control my odor, and I understand that I can't eliminate 100% of it. We'll never be able to do that unless we go out and hunt in a bubble with one of those ozone things in it. But you got to use a cover scent. So especially when you call like I call, deer want to come in downwind of you to see what deer's there. And when you're calling to them, when they see a deer, they hear a deer, and they smell a deer, you fooled all three of their senses, and you're going to get them. And honestly, that's what I attribute my success to. I've got, like I said, hours of video footage of deer inches away from my decoy, because I've used that same philosophy of scenting out the decoy and then spraying some dominant buck urine on the ground. And they see a deer and they smell it. They just don't see the thing moving. And I've got one video that's absolutely phenomenal. It's on YouTube, and it's been on the Hunt Channel a couple times, where a young buck circles this decoy, and it's a 3D decoy. It's a flat one with it's an HD picture of a buck on some PVC, and it's amazing. And he sees it. He's all flared up, and he's stomping in. I'm thinking, at any time, right, he's going to smash the thing all up. And he gets behind the decoy, and he sees that it's gone, and he raises his head back, and then he backs up. He like moonwalks, and he sees it, and he flares up again, and he walks behind it to smell it, and he doesn't see it. He does 3 times. And then he stood there for probably 2 minutes, like right at the base of the deer, smelling where I sprayed the scent at. And honest to God, when he walked away, that was the most confused deer I've ever seen. He walked away like, what is going on? But that's what I attribute my success to. I practice a lot. I try to make sure I get out, and even in season I practice, because you got to make the shot. But I really think that's the secret to why I've been so successful in whitetail hunting.
Now, you left out the vocalization. So you're talking to these deer downwind. You get all the scent up. Now are we snort wheezing? Are we grunting? Are we tending grunts? What are we doing?
Well, once again, I had a very dear friend, Clay Shorthouse. I don't know if you ever remember the TV show called Tread Barda. He was a hunter from my friend, my buddy.
He was from New England or Long Island, right?
My best friend, Clay, was his cameraman. Unfortunately, Clay passed away. And Clay and I were working on a TV show together. It would have been outstanding, because he was amazing producer and filmer. Clay was in the middle of his heart transplant 2 years ago, and a year and a half ago, and he passed away in the middle of it. But I miss the guy. But he always called me the animal whisperer, because I can do, with my voice, I can do elk calls, moose calls, coyote calls, wolf calls, goose calls, turkey calls, but I can't do grunt calls. But so what I learned is real quick, spending all this time in the woods, that deer are a lot more vocal than people realize. And one of the most common things I see when I turkey hunt and I deer hunt, people call way too soft. My buddy, we were out filming this year, Mark, and he's a great guy, but there were a buck coming through, and I told him grunt. And the buck is 75 yards away, and we got traffic from the highway, and he's going, I'm 5 feet away. I can barely hear it. I said, grunt louder. And I absolutely blare my calls at the deer. It seems to work. One of my favorite calls is to take a can call. If you got a second, hold on here. Got it right here. So I use the Primos buck growler, and I use the can call. This is the Harmon can call. You turn it over. That's the doe and estrus, right? So this is what a buck sounds like chasing. And remember earlier when I told you my dad said if you want to trap an animal or kill an animal with a gun or a bow, you got to think like it. Well, a buck chasing a doe doesn't stay in one spot, does he? He's after that doe. So when I'm in my stand, I'll physically do this. And I'll do that probably every 15 minutes during the rut. And 2 of the bucks I've killed have been because of that. One of them I named Brutus the Beefcake, this huge body 5-year-old. He was the heaviest deer I've ever shot. And I called like that and then grunted like the buck was chasing the doe, and put my calls away and turned, and there he was at 20 yards stomping at the decoy. And so every situation to me is different. And like this year I killed that buck on October 24th. Last year I killed a 150-inch buck in the same farm, blindly call him in, no decoy, on October 19th. And I think if you have a dominant buck about the middle of October to the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, you can start to use the grunt. And to me, what I've found works is a long grunt like this. And then when they snap their head up, pop them with a snort wheeze. I don't know if you heard the end there where I fluttered that.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to have bucks be right underneath me and snort wheeze each other. And every time they do that, it's kind of like a flutter of it. I wish I could show you the video this year. It'll be out soon enough. But that buck, when I snort wheeze, I grunted and he started coming. He starts making a scrape at 175 yards. He starts walking. And when I snort wheeze, he just flared up. He's huge body buck. Flared up, starts pawing the ground up, peeing in a scrape, makes another one, and then he walks straight into the decoy from 175 yards because of calling. Now, last year, the buck that I killed, you can watch it on YouTube also. That's called the Gomer Pile buck because he was my surprise buck. When I shot him, I thought he was this 130-inch 8-pointer I've been after for a while out there. And when I found him, he was a 150-inch 10-pointer. But for 9 minutes, he came up out of his bed 135 yards away from me. For 9 minutes, I called to him probably 25 times. People were like, I don't know how you got away with doing all that. Well, if you watch the demeanor of a deer, and I know it's hard for us here on this podcast to talk about it, but their ears and the way they flare their ears up, pin them back, or put them forward, their hair, the back of their haunch back here. If you watch all that, I've been out in the field thousands of hours, and I've watched hundreds and hundreds of deer and called to them. And I think I have this like sixth sense of being able to watch a buck and know how to call them. You know, when they start to act like their ears are just doing the twitching where they're like not interested, they start looking around. I give them I grunted at that buck last year. He was 58 yards away from me, and I grunted. And what I did is he was over here, and I grunted right over my shoulder like this. About that loud because he was so close. And why I grunted that way is I wanted him to think the buck was over here. And he finally came around and circled. He was trying to get my wind, and I shot him at 51 yards. But if I hadn't called to him, he would have never came in because when he stood up, he was walking after 3 does. So I was able to get at that stage of the game, play to his territorialness, and drag him away from 3 does that had just walked away. And that's what he actually got up and was staring at by using that grunt and the snort wheeze. And I think every situation is different. You know, rut, you don't want to use the snort wheeze because by then the bucks have already established dominance. And I think that's when you want to go to that can call and then that act like a buck chasing a doe. You know how it is. It's all the bucks in the area are looking for that hot doe. And then late season, I do very little calling late season. By then, most of the deer in the area have heard every idiot, including myself, calling to them, and I think they get call shy. But I will do a fawn bleat. I've got a little, Harmon makes it, and it's just a little meow, meow. And it actually kind of imitates a button buck. And I've called in bucks in late season using that little call. I think as they start to, bunch back up and bachelor back up, I think they think, oh, is that one of my grandkids? They come over to check it out. And I've just been very fortunate. And like I said, Clay, my buddy, he called me the animal whisperer, but I don't think I have any talent. It's just that I pay attention, and this German mind, everything goes in that mind, and it just turns all the time. You tell right now, I'm a pretty hyper guy. I have ADD. I sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. My brain never shuts off.
Oh, geez. Now, what about rattling? I've had some really great success rattling, and I've had some no success rattling.
I have had in Indiana, our areas are mostly so thick. I've rattled in some small bucks, but I've had, like you, Bruce, and most of the time it's not been very good. I did rattle in a huge buck one time, but he came in downwind and caught me moving. I never heard him. I think rattling works so well in Texas because it's so open. It's such a huge area that buck can't slip. You catch them before they get downwind of you. But I haven't had much. I don't do much rattling at all.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of, a couple of mornings, it was stupid. It was like, and my buddy was listening to me rattling. So he said, it looks like Foreman and Ali going at it or something. Because I was smashing them. I don't tickle them. I smash those suckers, and then I'll tickle them and do sequences and stuff. But when things are going, I just smash the crap out of them.
And you've had luck doing that?
Yeah, I have.
See, I try it both ways. I mean, I have. Most of the time, I rattle small bucks in, but I hunt really thick areas. I hunt transition areas. I hunt where I see the does at. Guys, I have a friend. One of the farms I hunt down, we call it the corn crib farm. I have an actual old corn crib that I've turned into a hunting shack. And I have guys from Georgia like Travis Johnson, who has a TV show. He comes up and films out of it. But we have all the does that live on the farm that I hunt, and all the guys across the street have all the bucks. Well, one of the guys said, you need to figure out how to get the bucks over there. I said, I get them over here because I got the girls. And I want to keep the girls on my property. I mean, we were young once. Remember prom? But that's my secret. I hunt the does. I hunt the transition areas where they're crossing. And I never dwell too bad until the rut. I'll get into the thick stuff. But I don't like the thick stuff for filming because, one of the things they tell you, or I've been taught or tried to been taught, is that you want to see that deer for 1-2, a minute to 2 minutes, or the animal, whatever you're filming, the turkey, whatever, because it gives you some buildup. When you're hunting real thick areas, the deer's right there. You got 5 seconds of video footage. To me, I personally don't care. I just, want to get the animal. But so I don't hunt the thick areas. A lot of times, what I've noticed is getting into the thicker areas isn't a problem. But if you get out in the afternoon, I've bumped deer off their beds, and I'm one of them edge hunters. I'm like the voyeur almost. I like to just watch what's going on and then make my game plan up. Back in 2010, I haven't got it mounted yet, but I shot this buck. I don't know if you can see that. It's a 148-inch buck that I shot with my bow. The cape went bad. My son unplugged the freezer and didn't plug it back in the garage. Anyway, but I had seen him 5 hunts in a row from way far off. I saw him right at daylight, and I saw him right before dark that same night coming out of the same area. Then I saw him a week later, closer to the rut. I saw him about a half hour after, shooting light, but it was shooting light. And then on November 5th, I saw him an hour and a half after shooting light, in the morning. He was coming back into that area. So that evening, I saw him leave. I waited till 10 o'clock, drove my Jeep all the way back into that area, took a ladder stand and put it up. And I got this on video. Put the ladder stand up, came out the next morning at 9 o'clock. Here he comes back in. I shot and killed him. Now, I had to call him in using that can. That's when I first really figured out that hand call, how to use it and how to grunt like that. And he come trotting right into me. But that's kind of how, I like to work that scenario when we're talking about hunting thick areas. I don't get in there unless I know there's a buck there. You can kind of get in and get that punch, that knockout punch and get out. But to hunt, I did when I first started hunting. Like I told you, the first 4 years of hunting, I was learning. And my biggest mistake was going out into that thick area October 1st. Well, guess what? You see all these bucks on your game trail camera and all these deer, but you never saw them in the stand because you were getting out there in the thick areas. And when you're walking out, you're bumping deer. And a lot of times people don't even know they bump deer, but they are. And then you're like, well, I never saw the buck. When the neighbor shot it. Well, yeah, you kept going back in the thick area too early. He went over and started living on the neighbor's property.
It's amazing. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I hope listeners, you're picking some of this stuff up because it makes sense, but we don't do it. I love long distance scouting for whitetails because I hunt out west and I long distance scout. That's how you save hundreds of miles, not hundreds, but a lot of miles. But you do the same thing with whitetails, and what you heard Uncle Bucky say, he figured it out. He watched them come in later, watched them come out, knew what time he was going to go back. He was sitting there when he came back, and he shot him. And he never hunted that deer except that one time. See, that's the neat part. If you do it right, and Dan Johnson, the Nine Field Chronicles, talks about that all the time. He'll hunt a stand 3 times. First of all, he'll see where the deer's running. He'll slip in there, put up his hang on, back out, either hunt it that night, depending on the wind, 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 sits, and he either gets him or he doesn't. Then he starts all over again. Sometimes, go ahead.
Go, get on. I agree. Keep on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and sometimes, and I've been guilty of it, the concussion stand. I've shot some great deer out of the concussion stand, but now I was in there last fall, and I got to take that stand down. Why? Because it isn't going to produce. Why? Because things have changed. Why? We already talked about it. Things change, and you've got to change if you want to be consistent. If you just want to go out, sit in the woods, have a great time, listen to the squirrels, do it. I could care less. I really mean that. Just go out and have a great time, drink your coffee, and think how wonderful life is, because it is. Or you go hunting and kill stuff.
I agree with you, Bruce. I'm like Roger Ragland. I love the outdoors and I respect the animals, but Bruce, I like to kill stuff. I like to catch stuff. You know why? I like to eat them. I like the way they taste.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you real quick. Do I want to know why you call it the concussion stand?
Yeah, you can ask.
I want to hear it. You got me intrigued. I want to hear it now, Bruce.
So anyway, so on the farm, we hunt Eddie's farm. I don't own the farm. I'm ingrained into the family. Anyway, so we had a radio antenna, and so we took the top of the radio antenna and we tied it against the tree, and we put a little stand out. This is when we used to use wood and plywood and 2x4s, everything. So we had that up there, and we killed a lot of deer out of the concussion stand. And then one year we go, I don't know. So I don't want to embarrass him. So Jim Bob was up on the concussion stand taking the straps off, and you know the rest.
Oh,
bam!
Jim Bob, I like how you covered his name, but he knows who he is.
Oh yeah, and so just 2x4 in the head, and it was ugly for a while, but he didn't die, folks.
Good, thank God. I figure that's probably what it was. Well,
yeah, but the concussion stand went away, and now we got a double ladder stand that I've got to take that away come June when we're resetting stands, because it just ain't working anymore.
Hey, my farm, the corn crib farm, it was logged out 2 years ago. Best thing the owner ever did. He also turned all the 50 acres of tillable ground into this bird habitat program. also the best thing. But guess what it did? It totally rerouted all the deer. Now this year, I got to get down early, mow some paths. I know where they're moving now. It's a total game changer. It's like, you get complacent, like we said, and I do it too, and now it's time to move stands. And you know what? It's a 120-acre farm, and I have 14 double sets on it. Yeah,
Yep.
I got a lot of stands to move.
Well, just hire some kids. Hire some kids.
You know what? The German part of me, it's not being cheap. My mom always say, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Yeah, but we're getting older. There's no way I'm setting stands anymore. And everybody knows that. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I don't like hunting on a ground blind. Nothing wrong with ground blinds. I just don't like hunting on them.
Oh, I agree. Hey, you know what? I think the thing is I do like being in a chain on or up in the air, because with filming, you need a little bit of lead time, but you can kill deer out of a ground blind just as easy as you can kill them out of a stand.
No, I
agree. In fact, it's actually more neater, don't you think? Because you're like ground level with them at 15, 20 yards, and it's like, wow, they're right there.
Right. But I was hunting Saskatchewan one time. It was really cold. We're hunting ground blinds and stuff. It was just black and everything. I just didn't like it. And finally, they took me out and put me in hail bale blinds, which I was fine.
Right.
I was just as cold, but there was something about the hay bale blinds that worked for me. I did not like those blinds. That's personal, and I know people shoot great deer out of ground blinds all the time. And this fall, I've got a couple of merit steps, and I'm going to put them up and see what happens. But I kind of like to be out in nature. I really enjoy that.
Me too. The one thing that why I don't like hunting ground blinds, I actually, all my ground blinds are elevated on at least 6-foot platforms or more. It's because when you film, the windows, you've really limited yourself where you can film out of. When you're in a tree stand, I agree, you're part of, I know it sounds like a tree hugger. I tell people I'm a tree hugger. But you have this whole range when you're self-filming. You have the entire range that your camera can go. When you're in a blind, you got obstructions that you've got to worry about. And turkey hunting especially, we try to hunt out of blinds, but I take a lot of young kids out, because that's another one of my passions, is sharing the outdoors with our younger generations. And you can't get a kid to stop moving. Or my one buddy called my son William, who's 21 now. We call him the turkey thug. That kid's killed so many turkeys, but he'd be asleep in the blind, and I'll have to wake him up. Hey, Will, you want to shoot this deer? You want to shoot this turkey? Oh, yeah. My friend always laughs that he just sleeps and you wake him up and shoot it. But he always puts a good shot on him. But it's the same thing when I film him. We got to be very careful that, we get the turkey or the deer or whatever animal in that, where I've got, room. So, that there's not a blockage of it. And sometimes it's hard. And especially when he was younger, I just wanted him to get something. And the filming came last. I was like, well, get something, because I wanted him to keep, maybe this is wrong, but one of the things, you take a kid out fishing or you take them hunting and they don't get anything, and they get kind of discouraged quickly. And it's nice to get them something, and then later on teach them that, hey, you know what, you don't always get something, but you always should learn something in the outdoors. But blinds are good for that. But I'm like you, I'd rather be on the side of a tree. Everything else.
Well, the birds that land on my, on the rail or stuff, and the squirrels that sit there, and I feed them half my lunch. And I mean, real stuff. I once had this hawk come down, and out west hunting, I had a golden eagle. I was right below a rock outface. He just, and I could hear him, and I was going, oh, you're thinking this doesn't happen except on, Wild Wild World of Omaha, whatever it is.
But we're showing our age now. We're showing our age, Bruce.
Well, I don't care. But you think of those, and I know the ravine. I was looking over in Wyoming, and I just heard this with his feathers, and he gave him and just sat. And I went, "Are you shitting me?" And he didn't. He could care less because I'm below him, and he can't set me. I'm not moving. I'm going, "Jeez." I mean, that's a thrill, folks. I mean, that really is a thrill to have a 20-pound golden eagle, sitting almost on your head.
Well, you and I love the outdoors thing. Same thing. I have to tell you, many times says things like that have happened. But I was hunting one year, and I saw something flash out of the corner of my eye, and within range of me reaching was a great horned owl, and he looked over at me and kind of looked and gave me like a look, like, "Oh, you're hunting too." And I thought, please don't, please, my eyelashes are a mouse. And then he flew off, and I thought, one of the places I hunt here close to my town is called an urban zone, and there's a busy highway within 150 yards. And I'll be in my tree stand, and I'll have hawks fly over, birds land on you, squirrels running up the tree like you talk about, coyotes by you, deer. And I think all these people are in their cars in the rat race. And I think they don't realize this amazing nature is just right here off the road. And I'm just happy I'm able to be out there and be part of it. Like, that's the most awesome thing is to see, a chipmunk run across your foot when you're turkey hunting, or rabbits come up beside you. Or down in Georgia one time, I had a black snake. I had this is no lie. I had 2 turkeys coming in, and I thought I had them figured out. They're going to come right up this ravine and fly up to the roost, and they gobble. They're coming in. I shut up, get the camera rolling. All of a sudden, I hear shh, and I think, what is that coming? And right up beside me was a 6-foot black snake, and his eyes were all glazed over. And I'm not scared of snakes. His eyes were glazed over because he was getting ready to shed, and that's when they say they're the most dangerous, they'll strike. And I don't care if he's not poisonous. I don't care if he bites me. I just don't want him to scare the turkeys. So I sat there, and he curled up next to my leg, and the turkeys came in behind me 25 feet and flew to the roost, and I couldn't move. I thought, are you kidding me? So I picked that snake up, put it in my decoy bag, and took it back. I was hunting with Bill Harmon. And I thought he wasn't going to drive me home that night. He was, get that snake out of here, boy.
Oh, boy. Hey, folks, I'm gonna call it. We've been going for almost an hour here with Uncle Bucky, Outdoor Adventures, and if we could go all night, which would be healthy for him and healthy for I. But one thing John shared with me, he does have MS, and he came through that, and it was a son of a gun. It was it was real bitch, but all of a sudden, he found a life that is meaningful to him. And when you think about that, when crap hits us as it hits us all, think about what Uncle Bucky's been through, and there's thousands of people who've been through stuff, and for whatever reason, they do get through. John, why don't you talk about that for just a second, and we'll wrap the show.
Well, like you said, in 2004, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and as you can tell, I'm a busybody. I own my own construction company. I work 65 hours a week in the field, and I work another 25 here at home. And the good Lord has a way of slowing you down. 2007, I got real bad. Had to undergo some pretty heavy steroid treatments. I went from 185 pounds to 219. But I was able to start functioning again. And in 2007, I was out in the woods. And I'm not pushing my religion on you, but I believe all outdoorsmen are very spiritual. We have this spiritual connection because we're doing what our Creator meant us to be, the steward of His outdoors. Well, I'm out here in this stand. I was a very strong guy, Bruce. Like I said, I wrestled and played rugby. I mean, I used to bench press almost 380 pounds. And I couldn't lift this 80-pound ladder stand up, and I got so mad. I sat there in the outdoors, and I made peace with God, with my MS. And I really felt like God told me, give it to me. It's not going to be easy, John, but I'll make you get through this. But I'm going to use you for my good. And that's what I think of. My mom taught us. My mom was a farmer, and she taught us there's always somebody else that's got it worse than you do. Get up, get moving, you'll feel better. Am I going to sit here and lie to you guys? The entire side of both my cheeks, my outer arms, and my legs, the nerves are totally dead. I have no feeling there. You could stick a needle through my arm. But you know what? Every morning I wake up, I thank God for that day. I say, how can I serve you today, God? And some of those days I go, hey, God, can I maybe get a deer or a turkey or a rabbit? And some of the times he lets me do that. And I think out there, if you're going through something, remember that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Remember that there's always somebody, like my mom would say, that's got it worse than you do. If you get up and get moving and you know, like I focus on the outdoors, and it gives me this goal that I've got, you know, that I want to be around for my grandkids. And I really think that's what really keeps me going. It is the outdoors and the fact that I want to share my experiences with other people that might be going through things like I've been through. And that's where I get my strength from. I'm not going to pull any punches. You know, every morning I wake up, I say exactly what I said. Thank you, God, for another day. How can I serve you today? And some days, you know, I ask him, can I go out to the woods? And he lets me. So, I think that's my wife that lets me, actually.
Well, this has been really fun. I can't wait till the next time to do it. And I'm going to, Uncle Becky's going up to Canada to play fisherman or something. I don't know. He's going to film. He's going to work. He's going to see bears, wolves, walleyes, catch some pikes, and he's going to have a blast. So I can't wait to hear about that story. But having said that, on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, Uncle Bucky, thank you so much for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Thank you for having me.
Join me as I head out to Montana and visit with Lindsay Persico. Now, a lot of you guys know Lindsay. She is the creator of Hunt Fiber. It is a blog. She also has Hunt Fiber Fitness, and where she helps people that want to be helped in the fitness area. She's had some struggles herself, and that's why she realizes that she wants to fuel her body so she can challenge the mountains, not just hiking the mountains, but challenge the mountains. Because right now she's into wolf hunting, and that's a DIY experience for her. And she was going up and crossing some drainages and dropping in some canyons and hiking to the tops of mountains, all with about a 45-pound pack and a 15-pound rifle, plus other incendiary gear. So to be able to do that, you got to be fit. So Lindsay's going to talk on the show, 1, about hunting, 2, about being positive and what it takes to really challenge the mountains.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.